Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to hear it from me first. I have been denied by NASCAR to run Talladega. That statement, delivered directly to his nearly 5 million YouTube subscribers, set off one of the most talked about conversations in NASCAR in 2026. But to understand why it mattered, you have to go back to where this whole story began. Not on a NASCAR oval, but on a drag strip in Florida, in front of a camera. Garrett Mitchell, known to the internet as Cleetus McFarland, is a 31-year-old Nebraska native who built one of the most passionate automotive communities on YouTube. His channel, built around horsepower, stunts, and the Freedom Factory, his own privately owned racetrack in Florida, accumulated nearly 5 million subscribers without a single NASCAR credential to his name. His world was drag racing, a Crown Vic racing series he created himself, a 150-car personal collection, and content that put entertainment before competition. He didn't come up through karting, late models, or any traditional racing ladder. He came up through a camera lens. So the question everyone started asking was simple: what made him think NASCAR was the next step? The answer begins in 2025, when McFarland made 5 starts in the ARCA Menards series, NASCAR's developmental platform. It wasn't a dominant debut season, but it was a start. He recorded 2 top 10 finishes in those 5 outings, including a career-best 4th place finish at Rockingham Speedway in the ARCA Menards Series East race. That was enough to open a door. Richard Childress Racing, one of NASCAR's most storied organizations, signed him to a 2-year deal that included 3 to 4 NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series starts per season in both 2026 and 2027. Veteran driver Ty Dillon stepped in as his primary mentor on track, while team veteran Mark Rette worked with him on absorbing the mechanical discipline of a championship-level program. Around the same time, McFarland secured a multi-year endorsement deal with Polaris, the global powersports manufacturer. The partnership, facilitated by NASCAR veteran Greg Biffle, replaced aging equipment at the Freedom Factory in Bradenton Motorsports Park with a full fleet of new Polaris vehicles. Reed Wilson, president of Polaris Off-Road Vehicles, said, "He brings a level of energy, passion, and authenticity that reflects what American motorsports is all about." The brand was growing around the NASCAR attempt, not despite it. In February 2026, McFarland made his NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series debut at Daytona International Speedway. It ended after just 6 laps. He lost control exiting turn 4 and slammed into the inside wall, finishing dead last 37th. It was a rough start, but the RCR team pressed forward, and in April 2026, after an encouraging test at Rockingham Speedway, they put him in the number 33 Chevrolet for his NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series debut. Rockingham Speedway is not a forgiving racetrack. It's abrasive, fast, and unforgiving on tires. As Ty Dillon put it, this is one of the toughest tracks. Things happen really fast, and it's hard just to make laps here. And on April 12th, 2026, Cleetus McFarland found out exactly what that meant. By lap 3, he made an aggressive move, diving into a 3-wide situation that immediately backfired. He spun out, then he spun out again, and again. By his own count, the day involved spinning out multiple times, and in his words, almost dying 10 times. After the early chaos, RCR switched the strategy entirely. They told him to go into conservation mode, forget positions, forget racing, just keep the car alive. He finished the final laps on flat-spotted tires, the rubber he was supposed to use having been destroyed in one of his spins. His final result, 32nd out of 38 drivers, 6 laps behind race winner William Sawalich. The reactions were split, and they split hard. Ty Dillon offered genuine encouragement after the race. "You did good. I could see you get excited and catch the guys in front of you." He added, "You learned a lot. You're going to go home and sleep on it and think of so many things." Dillon emphasized the context, that McFarland had come from no traditional racing background whatsoever. From never ever doing this, he hasn't raced anything as far as what we do. We just had to keep the perspective of teaching him as much as we can. But not everyone shared that warmth. Tommy Baldwin, former NASCAR crew chief and team owner, was blunt, calling the performance a waste of a very good race car. And Freddie Kraft on the Door Bumper Clear podcast pointed to a specific moment that stood out to him. In-car audio where McFarland didn't understand what inside meant when communicated by his spotter. That, to me, fucking basic racing 101, Kraft said. His position was clear. McFarland needed to go back to ARCA, not because he couldn't drive, but because he hadn't yet learned how to race. Dale Earnhardt Jr., speaking on the Dale Jr. download, reviewed the footage from the test sessions and the race and landed in the same camp. I saw enough to not approve him for Daytona or Talladega in the O'Reilly series. To be quite honest with you, Earnhardt said, he noted that across 3 sessions, he busted his, lost control of the car or the truck. Earnhardt did acknowledge that he hadn't expected McFarland to finish the race at all, saying, "I actually expected him to wreck in the O'Reilly series. That McFarland completed it was, at minimum, a step forward." Then came Tuesday, April 8th, 2026. NASCAR made it official. John Probst, NASCAR Executive Vice President and Chief Racing Development Officer, addressed it directly. "We're all huge Cleetus fans. We all watch his videos and are certainly very appreciative of everything he's done in our sport and will continue to do in our sport. He is approved right now for O'Reilly Series short tracks, which means he's good for all of ARCA, all of Truck, and then O'Reilly up through the short tracks. We'd like to see more out of Cleetus in the short tracks, so we're not saying no, but there is more that we would like to see out of Cleetus before we would approve him for Talladega." McFarland would not be racing the April 25th O'Reilly Auto Parts Series event at Talladega Superspeedway with RCR. He would, however, still compete in the ARCA Menards Series race at Talladega that same weekend, a series he was fully cleared for. He broke the news himself on Facebook directly to his audience. "Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted you to hear it from me first that I have been denied by NASCAR to run Talladega in my O'Reilly's car. Made my O'Reilly's debut last Saturday with hopes of getting approval for Talladega, but they did not see enough." He called it a kick in the nuts, but was measured and accepting in his response. "I've only been racing NASCAR for 1 year, so it was never my mission to go out and climb in an O'Reilly's car and get to the top as fast as I can. I need more windshield time, regardless of whether it's in an O'Reilly's car, an ARCA car, or a truck. More windshield time is going to help me. I got a lot to learn, guys." That admission opened up a bigger conversation, one worth taking seriously. The critics weren't wrong. Mark Martin, a vocal McFarland supporter, still agreed with the process. "That's exactly the point, is he should have won a bunch of late model races first. I'm gonna say if you win the Snowball Derby, that you just wrote your ticket." Tommy Baldwin framed it plainly. "It's like being in 7th grade and deciding you're going to go to college." Freddie Kraft summarized the core issue as the difference between knowing how to drive and knowing how to race. And at Talladega and Daytona, that gap isn't just about results, it's about safety. Pack racing at super speedways with 40 cars running at over 200 miles per hour inches apart demands instinctive racecraft that can't be self-taught in real time. At the same time, NASCAR's interest in McFarland isn't purely charitable. He carries an audience the sport has struggled to reach. The NOAPS director confirmed the entire garage was rooting for him. RCR made a 2-year business commitment, and McFarland finished the race, which, after Daytona, was not guaranteed. What comes next is a calendar full of development, more ARCA starts, more Truck Series races. He's also launching a pro late model series at the Freedom Factory, purchasing a straight rail late model from Port City Race Cars and partnering with promoter and technical director Ricky Brooks to run events at his own track. He is simultaneously building the ladder he probably should have climbed years ago, and doing it in public, in front of millions of people. The next O'Reilly Auto Parts Series Superspeedway opportunity doesn't arrive until late August 2026. His stated goal is to be racing Daytona and Talladega in the O'Reilly Series by 2027. The Polaris deal keeps his content operation funded regardless of what NASCAR decides. NASCAR said not yet. Cleetus McFarland said fair enough. And in a sport that rarely makes room for unconventional paths, that exchange might be the most honest thing to come out of this entire story.